Hi everyone. In the last two videos we have explored a Python framework called Anvil, using which you can build a web application. So we can use the pure Python and no need to worry about HTML and JavaScript, and we can build a custom web application. So in the last two videos, the first video we cover, how do we integrate Anvil with the ChatGPT or OpenAI API, so that we can say, how to build, let's say, AI powered web application, and that's what we saw. Another requirement mostly I have with the clients is that they need to connect their app with the database like MySQL or something. So we saw how to connect to the database, show those results on the UI, right? So we saw this application. Let me see where it is. Yeah, here is this application where we are actually showing some data from the database in the tabular format, and we saw how to configure those columns and their values and all of those things, right? Now what we actually going to do today I'm going to show you how to do the user management in the Anvil, because one of the major reason for me to switch for some of the apps from, let's say, Streamlit application to the Anvil, because we want a user management. Client wants to have that user management, which sometimes gets very much difficult with the Streamlit, and the Anvil is it has really good support for the user management, right? So that's what we're going to show today. So I will show you how to add, let's say, sign up form, how users can log in, how they can log out, and all of this functionality we will see. So this is something what we saw the last time, okay? And doesn't matter even you haven't seen my last video, because what we're going to show is right. That is something is not depend on what we already have here, right? But you should have a familiarity with the Anvil, and that is what I covered in this first video, where I explained the Anvil component and all of those stuff, right? So let's do one thing, right? So this is the code of our Anvil app. Here, these are our code files. This is like our database. These are some settings, right? Now, to have a user management in your app, you need to use a service called user. So this big plus icon, right? You can click on it, and you will have a lot of services that you can add. So what we are actually looking for the users, right? So let's click on the user service, and then it will add, let's say, that service to our application. And you could see they have given that if you want to have a login form, this is the statement that you need to use in your application, so that it will pop up login, right? For your application. You can also see people can sign in with the email and password, so you can check uncheck this thing. You can also see, this is one of the good thing, you can simply click here and users will be able to sign in with their Google account, right? A lot of website we don't want to create a new username and remember those passwords. Rather, we want to sign with it, let's say either Google or any GitHub account or something like that, right? So let's start with the basics. We want to have login form, right? But then we don't want any secure password, but you can add check boxes. This allow visitors to sign up. This is we really want, right? So they should be able to sign up. Then that's what we all. Okay, let's have a confirm email also, because they need to confirm. Now since we are on the all visitors sign up, let's copy this code. So I'm taking this line, which is going to give some pop-up for user to log in. And where do I want to put? So this is my UI code, right? This is our UI, and if I go to, let's say, this is the design, maybe I go to the code section, right? So this is where actually we are showing our data, right? So if you look at our code, this is the data. But before I show any data, actually I want to make sure the user is logged in and pop up with that login form. So I will call that thing here just before. So you can think this is the form is actually encapsulating our all UI, whatever the UI you see here, right? This UI on the, you see this customers list, right? It is under this form one as a parent component, right? And in this form one, if I go to its code section, I want to make sure before it does anything, once it initialize those properties and all of these things, I just want to call this login form, right? So we did this thing. Now let's restart and run our app and see what happens. So now, yeah, you could see, we can actually sign up with the new account here. So, but before that, let's see whether this thing, like, let's go and this, what was this users, right? We saw there is option to sign up, right? Let's say we remove this option. We don't want users to sign up, and then let's restart it and see what happens. Now you see there is no option to sign in, so you could do something like this. So you can create those couple of accounts, and maybe then you want to disable the user sign up, right? So that the people who has already account, only they can sign in, right? But in our case we do want, right? So let's again click it, restart the app, and we should have that option available. So let's say we can click on sign up for a new account, I'm going to use my demo account what I'm using. Let me type it here. I'm just using some sample password, right? It might not be the strong, but just now I click on a sign up. It's saying that they send email to this particular email, so we can confirm. Let me go to my email, and yeah, I got this email just recently, 1 minute before. Like, yeah, let's say confirm your email address. Let me click here. You might see multiple emails because I might have tried this thing before even recording the video. So thanks for confirming your email. We can go, and I think now we should be able to sign with the same password that we have used. I just use a normal simple password, and let me log in. Okay, it says incorrect. Sorry, I didn't type the email. So let me type the email. Okay, now we sign in. So actually we have sign in. That's why we are able to see some data, and we can play around it, right? And now let's see what we can do with once user is signed in. How do we get the sign in user information, right? So here we have a documentation. Maybe we can see some of the stuff that we could use. You could see this is how we can get actually the user information, right? So we can literally get this. If you call this thing, we will get the user. So let's do one thing on this particular UI. We're gonna create, where is this, our app? Yeah, I think it is here, right? Maybe just a lot of tabs. We want to have, let's say, some button. Okay, and if you click on that button, we want to show the user. So let's create some button. So let's go to the row template one. Wherever we have our UI elements, right? Assume that we don't have anything this thing, but since I have some sample app which we already built, let me put somewhere the button down here wherever I get space. So let's click on add new component, and we want button actually. So let me put it somewhere down. Okay, here, yeah. Let's call this. So if you click on this button, if you don't remember, you can click on this button, right? And you will get this properties column if you click on it. And in the properties, you can even change the name of the button, but let's say for now it's called button one. But what we are interested, this text, let's say call it show user, right? That's what we can now to call it. And then what we will do, let's take one more component, right? When I click on show user, next to it I want to actually show the user email where whoever has login. So I need some text property. So we can use this label property in front of it, let's say, and it is calling label one. Just remember, this was something, I guess, button one. This is label two, and here we're going to show something, right? So let's not assign any value to it, right? Now let's go to again show user and double click it, so that if we go to the code section where we have a logic that what should happen when we click on this user, right? So we want to get the user first thing. So let's create one variable called user, and then we go to the anvil dot users dot, I think, get user. Yeah, so this is the function using which we can get the user. And then we will see if I got the user. If there is a user, then I want to assign some value to the text box, right? So the text box we created, you can see all the elements on your project, and we can give. So it was actually called label 2. If you don't, let's go back and change the name of that label. So this was the label 2, right? Maybe you can click on its properties and make it something like let's say I will call it user label or something like that. Okay, let's call it user label. Again, come to here, this section where, and now we should be able to see this user label there. Yeah, it's coming, right? And it has a text property. Since it is a label, we can assign some text to it, right? What text we want to assign? We want to assign the user actually email. So let's take our user, right? And then actually we want it. So you get some kind of a, so anvil.users.get user will return a row, a database row, right, in your database table. And if you want to see, so since we have created user, it should be somewhere, right? So let's click on a data table, and you see when we added the user service, users table got created, and you could see this is what our the one which is created, right? And when it was last login, the password is stored in the form of hash, right? It can also see that that I have confirmed the email, and when did I sign up, right? So all these things out of the box you get, right? So let's go back to again code, and where we were actually writing. So this was the form one, where we were writing some code. So we got the user, we just want to show its email property, right? So if if you just put some, let's say, quotes here, it will suggest what all things you want to show, right? Maybe we want to show only the email part of it. So this user label should get value user if we get the user, right? So let's test this thing. If some error comes, we will see. Okay, so we saw this show user button that we just added. On click, we are showing something here. It went somewhere here. Maybe our, we need to see how we arrange those elements. But at least functionality is working. When I click on show user, you know, it first, button click, we got the user, and then user label dot text, we assign something. Let's see why we got the disturb view. Yeah, it got disturb. You see, this user label, I just wanted to put in front of it, right? Maybe I get this thing on it. Yeah, now they are side by side. Let's refresh this page and see whether we see those things. Yeah, now I can see we got this, right. So this is how we are able to log in. We can get the user information. So as I told you, we just got one row from this database table. So you can show its email, whether whether they have verified their account or not, and all of this information you can mention, right. Now let's do one thing, right. Since now we have login functionality, we also need to have logout, right. So I think they also have similar function. The syntax will be same. The anvil.users, maybe we call it get logout or logout. Yeah, this is what, right. So let's create one more button. When the user clicks on it, we're going to make it logout. So we can have that button here somewhere. Let's go to the toolbox and add one more component. Now we want again let's say, now I'm not bothering about where to put that thing, right. You could put it anywhere, wherever for now demo purpose. I just want to show the functionality and not giving importance to where I'm putting that element. So this is again button. Let's see what is it is called. It is called button 3 here. Okay, so now maybe first we want to change this property. So let's click on here, go to the properties, and instead of calling button 3, we call it logout. Okay, we call it logout. Maybe by default we can make it or maybe it should be only visible like when user is logged in or something like that, right. We only want to show this particular button, else we want to hide it, this particular thing. So maybe what we can do, okay, let's say, what if we remove its visibility, it should there, but it's not visible now. But when do we want to visible it? We are not waiting to button get click, right. So where can we put this condition? Maybe we can put this condition somewhere here to make it visible, so we can check whether we got the user or not, right. You see, this is happening on a button click, but even whether to show that element or not, maybe we can add it here somewhere. This is something I didn't try. Let's see. We can add this whole code block here, saying that maybe we can decide the visibility of that particular. If there is a user, we want to show that particular thing. So it was a self dot, I think it was button 3, right. And which property we want to manipulate? We want to manipulate its visibility property, and we will make it true. If it is we should be able to show it. Let's see whether this work. Like I got or maybe I will add that functionality. So this, right, after clicking, what we want to make sure once it should log out the user. So where is this is what should happen when we log out the user, right? This thing. And here also we can put that condition, for safety purpose, that whether there is a user only, then and then this thing should happen. So maybe we check this condition again here, and we say that this things should only happen when we got the user. So if there's a user, we want to call users dot logout. And now we also want to hide the other element, right. If the user is going to log out, the show user and user enable, let's hide them also. So the we want to have, let's say, self dot the that label, user label or something. Let's make it something like like we will assign, either you can put it a hide, or we will simply assign some empty value to it. We will make self dot button, which was button 1 3 or what. Let's see, I forgot. I think it was 1. What is this button? Click on a properties, it is a button 1, right. Maybe you can give good names when you work, right. So this was the button 1. We want to make its visibility again a false, because we don't want it to show now, right? That's what we can do. What we can also do, since now it is actually the logout, we are forcing it to, let's say, maybe to log in. Let's copy that line which will ask user to log in. Where was that line? We put login with form or something, right? This was that line. So let's take that thing and we will force it to actually the login. And if he goes through that thing, then again we will make this thing visible, this all buttons and this thing we will make it visible. Maybe we can make only one of them is visible, right? So we can make button one again true. If they log in, if they go through this process, then we want to make sure that show user is again visible, right? What else we can do? Users.logout. Hey, we also want to hide the logout button, right? If user is going to log out, then we don't want this thing to be even visible. So it is button 3. So even when it log out, we will also make the visibility of self dot button 3 should be not visible, or let's say visibility, we're going to make it as a false. Let's test this thing. We did a lot of things. So when logout click, we got the user. We confirm whether if it is the user. We simply call the logout, and then we hide the logout button. Then we clean those other, even the show user and all of this is button. And then we prompt user with again login. And if it passes through this, then we want to make sure our show user button is visible. Okay, I think let's test this thing. If some error comes, you will see. New tab. Thing, maybe we are already logged in, that's why. Let's see, show user. Yeah, we have the user. Let's click on a log out. Some error came. Now let's see what happened when we click on cannot set attribute user label. Okay, yeah, we can't set any attribute. User label is a component, right? We want to alter its property. So its property is the text, because since it is a label, it has a text property, just like a button has this visible property. Even it will have a visible property, right? So we solve that issue. Let's see if it works now. We are already logged out, right? Because we already got logged out. So let's log in again. 1 2 3 4. Name here, user is giving warning, the password is easy, that's fine. Since now we have logged in, we have both of these things visible. Let's click on show user. We got the user. Let's click on logout. So when we click logout, you see this, both the components got cleared because we put this condition, this one, right? All of these things. And then we actually ask user to log in. So if it goes through this phase, we also want to again visible the show user button, right? And now it can go. See, this is really happening, good. Actually, we are able to do all of this, things. Now what we can do, let's see, we can test this thing also. Sign with, let's see what other properties we have in the user management service. This we did, we can, what else? Yeah, you can ask people to have those secure password, right? Like it should be minimum 8 characters, and all of these things will happen. What if we want to enable, sign in with the Google? So if I log out, not this one, right? Where is our button? App is here, right? Let's see, refresh it again. Okay, now you see there is only sign up for a new account, but there is no login with Google. Now what if we enable this thing? Let's enable this and then run again. Now you see we got one more thing, sign in with the Google, right? But if I want to use the same account, maybe what I can do, the we can delete that user what we had. Let's go to the users table. How can I delete? Do we have here some delete button option here somewhere? There is this option of delete all rows. No way, there must be something, right? Yeah, if I right click on it, there is a delete row option. So okay, yes, so there is no user now. Now what if I sign in with the Google? So when I click on this, because I already sign in with the, this window, this particular window you saw, I already sign in this video with my account, right? So that's why it, We are able to log in now. Let's say show user. So now we should see actually one row appearing here, and this time we haven't signed up with the username and password, rather we sign up with the Google account, right? That option, sign in with the Google. See what happens in the users table, whether we see any user coming there also. Yeah, I saw some user we got, right? Now we don't have any password yet this time. Why? Because we log in via, let's say that, login with Google, right? So we can't capture people's username password, right? And it shows this all of this information. So you say how easy it was, right? We can just enable something, one checkbox, and then you have login with Google. That is going to be really big trouble if you want to do it something from scratch or maybe on a Streamlit, right? So I think what all things we saw, how do we enable the user service, then how do we make sure that before we show any data or any component, we want to call this login form. Once user logins, you can get the user information like this, and this is like a row. Then you can get, you can use the square brackets, that dictionary syntax, and you can get all the columns whatever you have here, right? These columns you can get there. That's what we can get. And we also saw you can play around certain things. We can allow people to sign in with their Google. We can see whether all visitors can sign up or not, because you might want to disable it later, right? You want people to confirm. Even if you see, there is some email confirmation. Okay, there is a template that you can modify. So whenever we got email, right, for the confirmation, you are actually can, you can change what should be the body of that particular email. So you can do a lot of customization here. Even the same email what you send for the password reset button, that time also you can customize this thing. So you can play around it. There are many options that you can see how it works, and then you can choose whatever the best thing you want to use. But this is the basic thing we want. Like, users should be able to sign up, they should be able to log in and log out, right? That's what any typical web application we might want to have. So this is how we can actually build those service, play around it. And I will be covering a couple of more videos on the Anvil, because I try to cover the things what I'm actually using. So we have been already using Anvil to build some kind of internal tools for our clients, where they can maybe see the predictions, they can give feedback or something they use internally actually. Because we haven't used Anvil for any public facing kind of application, where you put that on internet or something like that. But we mostly, the client requirements we do actually for the internal purpose, like they are the internal tools, right? And internal tool building is also a big market. When you have one application online, there are 10 applications internally company will be using for their purpose. So I hope you found this video useful. If you had a doubt related to the Anvil or anything, because since I'm also new and exploring it, let me know. Thank you.